Hello there everyone. Today I want to show you how to make this Turk's head knot bracelet, and this is what it looks like. So this is the effect that you can get, and I've just chosen to work with two colours with 3 separate cords, and then I've just used a black and a brown leather. I think that makes it look quite masculine, or at least unisex, so it'd be good for all sorts really. And I've just put a toggle clasp on it as well, but you can obviously put on whatever you want. But if you want to learn how to make this, then keep watching. And here are the materials that we're going to use. Now first off we'll need the cord, and in this case I'm working with some 1mm leather cord, and I've just got a black colour here and then a brown colour. This is just for the design that I want to do. You can either also choose to use just one colour or even 3 colours, because even though I've got 2 colours I'm going to be using 3 different strands. And then here I have some findings. Now I have some Kumihimo ends here. These are just some bell shaped ends, and it's just to finish off the piece, the bracelet we're going to be making at the end. And then I've got some jump rings and then a clasp. I'm just using a toggle clasp for this, but you could also use any other form of clasp that you prefer. And then right here what I have is a piece of wire, and this is just a scrap piece of wire that I've used from something else, and it's a 1mm. It doesn't have to be this, but this is just what I'm going to be using as kind of a needle to help feed my cord through when I'm braiding it. So you can either do something like this, and I've just left a little hole at the end, or if you have something else that you want to use, like maybe a large hole needle, it's just to be able to get your cord through, and you can use this to help the cord get through your braid. And then down here I have some paracord, and we really don't need much of this, we just need enough to basically go around your bracelet, because we're going to be using this as the core. So we're going to be making the braid, so the actual design feature, with this cord, and this is just going to be running through the centre just to give it that bit of support and stability. And then what I have here is basically the tool that we're going to be using. So this is just a piece of plastic tubing, so it's hollow in the middle, but that doesn't matter. And you can just buy these in different lengths and just cut it down shorter. And then I just put a nail or a screw in one end here, sticking out a little bit, because we're going to use this to attach the cord to begin with. Now this specific one has a diameter of about 1 centimetre, but you can also make other ones. It depends what you want to make obviously, but here are a few other ones, and these are just wooden dowels. You can buy these in many DIY shops, and again just cut them down to a shorter length, and then put a screw or a nail on one end like this, sticking out a little bit so you have that to tie around. So that is an easy enough tool to just quickly make at home, and it's going to really help you to make this piece. So let's get all our materials together, and then let's get started. So like I mentioned, the cord that I'm going to be using in this case is 1mm leather cord, and I've just chosen a black colour and then a brown one to give it a nice effect. Because what I'm going to be doing is, you can also use this, you can obviously just use one colour if you want to, but you could also use 3 colours even, because what we'll be doing is basically 3 strands throughout the braid, and then what I'll have is the brown one in the middle, and then a black one on each side. So that's how it's going to end up looking. And that's also why in this case I'm using more of the black cord than I am of the brown. Obviously if you're using 3 different colours, you just use the same length as the brown one on all 3 colours. But in this case what I have is I have 5 meters of my black cord. So like I said, that's the one I'm going to be using twice. And then I have 2.5 meters of the brown one, so that's going to be the centre colour. But again, like I said, if you're just using 3 different colours, you just take 3 lengths of about 2.5 meters each. So then what I'm going to do first is I'm going to get my black cord out, and this is the long one that I'm using, and you just want to work with the full length from the beginning. And then also we need to get the tool that we made, or if you have another tool just use that. And then what we need to do is just attach this cord to the screw here. So I just use a regular knot like this, a regular overhand knot, and then we want to put that around the screw or nail, and just gently like this. And this is just so it's secured to your tool, so it's easy to work with. So now to start building it, what we need to do is start wrapping our cord here around the tool, and you just want to kind of take this where the screw or you have your pin as being the top part. It's just to kind of keep it a little bit straight and neat as we go. And then I use my right hand to hold my cord, and then I start wrapping it around here like this, So now we've gone around once, and what you want to make sure to try and do is keep tension here so it kind of stays in place, because it's until we start wrapping in and out between the cords, you'll need to just keep the tension on it for it to stay in place. But what I try and do is to have about 2 centimeters space in between each wrap, and then we wrap it again, like so. And just do it this slowly, and you can adjust it a bit as you go, but about 2 centimeters in between. It's just roughly, you can always adjust it a little bit. But what we need to do is do this 8 times. So that's 3. And like I said, try and keep it even as you go with your wraps. That's 4. 5. Always using the nail for reference, or the screw. But that's your top, so you know that you're going around, every time you do a round, that is one full round. And then 6, 7, and the last one, 8. Now what I just want to point out is that this specific bracelet I'm making is going to be this size, so that's why I've done 8 wraps like this. If you want the actual bracelet to be larger or smaller, you need to adjust the amount of wraps that you do. So say if you want it to be smaller, do an extra one, so you have 9 or even 10. So that's completely up to you. But I like making this size, and you can always use an extended chain if you need to adjust the size at the end. So we now have our 8 wraps here, held in nice tension here, so it's nice and even. What we need to do is come back down the other way. So we're on the top here again, always referencing the screw about what's the top, and then we just start spinning it again, but then taking the cord back down the other way. And this is kind of the most fiddly part of it, it's just holding the tension so your cord stays in place. And then when the back side now, because the nail is on the other side of the screw, so what we want to do is when we're on the back side, we want to cross it over, and then turn it again, back to the front, and then we cross it over here as well. So again, just using that for reference. So you're just using the previous wraps you did to stay at about the same distance between your wraps. On the back side, cross it over the same place as the first one. It's just roughly, you don't have to be 100% perfect with this, but just as neat and even as you can. On the front again, cross over the same place, and do this all the way down, like that. And you just follow the road all the way back to the beginning. Like this. So this is the last wrap just before we would hit the screw here. So what we need to do now again is come back down the other way one more time. And so to do that, I'm again going to make sure you keep your tension on there, because if you let go, the whole thing will probably come undone and you have to start from scratch. But just take your time and do it. So here we are in between, from the where your knot is, the very beginning, and the first wrap, in between there. So this space just before you would hit the screw or the nail, you want to then put your cord in between those 2 wraps. So in between those 2 cords, and then kind of follow this path back down, so running down the middle here, all the way back down again. So just keep looking at these 2 cords and follow, make sure you stay in between in the middle of them. And you'll see again your crossovers there are going to be quite even on both sides. You can try and keep it as even as you can, but it doesn't have to be perfect, because like I said, we are going to be adding more cord, which is going to kind of end up evening it out. I'm getting to the end, reaching like this. But we want to go all the way down across the very last one as well, like this. So you now have your cord ending at this very end. So we're now back down at this end, and you want to just still make sure you hold the tension on here on your cord, because otherwise it will still come undone. But what I'm going to do is just take my other hand and then just keep hold of it, because what we need to do now is grab either the needle that we made ourselves with wire, or if you have something else that you want to use, we need to grab that and then put that on the end of our cord. So I've now added my needle to the end of my cord. You can obviously do that from the beginning as well if you feel more comfortable, so you don't have to worry about just holding this in place. It's already done for you. But like I said, now we are here with our cord right at the end, crossing over the very last cord that's available to cross over. So we cross over that one, and then again we need to come back down. But to do that, what we need to do now is start weaving the cord in and out. So I just like to kind of use my other hand and my thumb and that to hold on to things for now. And then we're coming across here, so you kind of see this little space on the other side. You have your cord coming up there that we're crossing over, and then on the back side you have this little dip in. And what we need to do now is weave in there. So what I'm going to do is get my needle in through here, so that very last cord, moving our way back up the other way. And this is where weaving in and out we're going to start doing now, so that's going to end up holding the cord in place, so you don't have to hold on to it in the same way that you do now. But weave through that, and then just take all your cord through there. And obviously here in the beginning you're going to have quite a long length, but as we go that's going to obviously come shorter and shorter. But just take your time doing this, and just do it gently, like that. So it crosses over the last one, and changes direction, comes back down, and goes underneath here. And then actually now, even now, you don't have to hold on as much as you did before. But now it's the same principle that we just did. We want to find the two cords here. So this one on this side, and then this one. And if you look in then, they kind of create a path all the way up. So you want to follow that path, going in the middle of that very path. So what I want to do is jump over the next one, and you can kind of see that next one is coming over that cord. So what I want to do is go over that one and then underneath the next one. So this is what I mean by weaving in and out of your cords, like that. And again, just pull it all through. And as you've done a few of these, it's going to hold it more and more tight in place. So you can even put your piece down as well, and then come back to it later, like that. So we've now gone back down twice, and just the same thing again like before. You found that path now with the two cords on each side, one on each side. You go down through the middle of them, follow that path all the way back down to this end, but you want to weave in and out between your cords. So skip over every other one and then go underneath every other one. So again, as you can see, the cords on the side, the path that we're following, they're coming underneath the cord that we've reached now. So that means with this one we need to go over it, and that means with the next one, those cords that we're following the path though, they are going above it. So that means in this case we'll need to go below it. So I've now reached the other end here, and I've made my last crossover going underneath, and then we'll reach the spot here again where we're kind of out of cord. We're not going to be using this cord because that's what's coming out from the screw, but what we need to do now is again change direction and then come back down. So the way that we do that is right now we're on the back side because the screw is on the other side, so we keep turning it to go over that last one right here, and then you have this channel again, or this path where you have that cord and then the one we're just crossing over now, so there, and we need to come back down in between them. So come back down this way. But what we need to do is again weave in and out. So to come back down, what we're going to do is actually go underneath that first cord, and what you'll find is that cord here to the left, so the one that's coming from right up from the screw, that's actually also going underneath. So now what you basically want to do is just follow the path of that cord and do the exact same thing. So again, I grab my needle here with my cord on, and then just go underneath that very next one, just in the same place right next to it. Just make sure you stay in between these cords still, so it's still in the middle of them. But then pull it all the way through. Like this, just nice and gently. And then you'll find when you're pulling it, it's going to lie like right here. So you can end up getting like a nice top to it. And then come back down this way, in between this path of your cords. And then the next one we need to go over, because every other one will go over and every other one will go under. But also, like I said, we're just following the path of this one, doing the exact same thing. So the cord that's to the left of it, and that one's also going over. So we need to go over, and then the very next one again, we'll need to go under. So that's quite easy. With this one, you just follow the path of that one. And you do this all the way down to the other end again. Just working your way down and making sure that your cord does stay in between those two, the path of those two cords though. And you just keep doing this until we reach the other end again. So I've now kept going all the way up to the other end here. Follow the path of that one cord all the way, and as you can see they kind of lie next to each other now. That's fine, just leave them there for now. And then I just have one left crossover to do up here. So I'm coming at towards the end. The last one I need to go over that, because that's what the other cord does, and then under the next one. Make sure you just go under that one and then come up between that last gap there. And just repeat, pulling all your cord through. And this is now the 5th time that we're going back and forth. Like that. So we've now reached the end again, and it's now time to move back down the other way again. So to go back down, we'll reach the end here again, so there's one last cord to cross over here, and then what we need to do is you move over, so you have a little dip here where two cords cross over each other. Put your cord over that, and then what we want to do is go above that one, so above that last loop right there, and then underneath the next one, like so. And then pull all your cord through. Make sure that your cord stays on the left side of that one. And just hold it in place if you need to, as you're pulling it through. And then what you'll find is when this tightens, you're coming out from here, and then the loop that you're making is going to fill out that dip there, and then come down that opening, and then the next cord's path that you're going to follow is the one on the right side. So when underneath here, so to the right, the next one it goes over, right here, and then underneath, and again make sure you stay on this side, so in between the path of these two cords, but just follow the path of the right one. So that means the next one, like I said, that goes over, so that goes over the one that has two right next to each other, because that's where you came up before. Over that one, and then back underneath the next one. So again, we're reaching the end here. I'm coming to my final crossover, so go over these, and then go under, because we're following that cord. Just pull it all through. And you can see your cord is already getting a fair bit shorter to work with, which makes it a little bit easier. And then now we reach the end again. We're coming up to where we have no more cords to cross over. And so to come back down, we let it cross over the last one again, just like the other times, and then we have these two. So again, the cord that's coming from the screw, and then the last one that we're just crossing over now. Those two are the ones that are now going to create our path. So we need to go back down in between them, but then what we have is multiple cords crossing over here in between them. So we're now basically going in between the two that are lying right next to each other, so the first ones we made that are lying right next to each other. And now we're going to separate them out, and then as we're crossing over that one, moving direction, back down, we cross over that very first one right here, that's in between. So cross over this one, and then we need to go underneath the next one here. So you want to get your needle, and then one way to do that easily, because obviously this is lying right close to your tool, so I go kind of below that one, because then down here you have a little gap. It's a bit easy to come in between, and then go back up like this. So you now separated out those two cords that are lying right next to each other. To come back down, pull it all the way through, so your loop at the top here is going to form another one where we're changing direction, and as you can see we're then going to do this all the way down and then gradually separate those two cords out. So the next ones are these two that are coming across. We need to go over them, and then the next one again is where we then want to come underneath. So we'll do the same thing, go over those two cords lying next to each other, and then to go underneath the next one, I'm going to go just a little bit below here, and then back up like that, and then you can just pull it all the way through. So keep following this path all the way down. Again, like I said earlier on, it's quite easy going up and down once you know what to do, because you just have to follow the path of the cords making. And then at the very end here, again, we're crossing over the last one where we have two cords to cross over, and then we just want to make sure that we go underneath the last one here, and then come up between that very last space that we have, like that. And again, pull everything through. So we now reach this other end again, working our way all the way across. And just put your cords into place so they lie somewhat correctly. And there we're at the end again. So to again change direction and come back down, we're coming out, crossing over the very last one here, and then we have this little space again, this little dip in, and then what you'll find is we have a little section here. We'll pull this out, that. We need to get underneath that loop here, but only that one. So just make your way in with your needle or whatever you're using. There. So it's coming out right on that little loop, so it's going to loop around like this once we tighten it. Now only just go through that loop. So as you can see, we're tightening this, and it's going to form another loop on the top here to make it nice and neat at the end. And then we're coming out from this very little space, and now again we need to find the path first of all, and then follow that all the way back down. So what we are in between now, coming out of this loop, we're actually already in between two cords, and it's those two cords we need to follow the path of. And that's these two that again, the two lying right next to each other. So you just go and you can separate them out to just kind of make it more easy to see where you need to go. So the very next one we need to go over, that's crossing over it, and then you have a little one hiding here in between them that we need to go under, but just under that one. And then come back out there. So we're only crossing underneath just the one cord in between the two that are lying right next to each other. So this is the path that we're going to follow now, all the way back up. there. And just use your needle or whatever you're using to kind of separate out your cords as you go. It'll make it a little bit easier to see where you are. So we now have the next one crossing over the path we're following. That's coming over. And then separate your cords out a bit from the path that you're following. And then you find one there, again, that's underneath your path. And we need to then go underneath that in between the cords that are creating the path that you're following now. Make sure again when you go under your cords here, when you're following this path, that you're only going under the one cord and not by accident go under two, because the very next one we need to go over to create the correct pattern. Like that. So we're just catching one cord here and then pull everything through. So like I said, you just follow this path now all the way to the other end, doing this exact same thing. So I just want to show the progress along the way before I reach the end and show you the difference. So this is what it looked like before, and then this is what it's going to look like after you do this crossover all the way down. And as you can see, it's spreading out nicely and looks a lot more even. It's not 100% perfect, but don't worry too much about that, because it'll naturally correct itself once we add in more cords. But this is roughly what it's going to look like then for now, and obviously just continue all the way to the end. So I've now reached the end here, and again we're doing the last crossover. So I'm going over that next one and underneath the one after that, just like we've been doing throughout the whole thing. Then we want to come up in a little space, so we're only going underneath one, we're not crossing over under any others, just underneath that one and come up in the last space available, like that. So you pull it tight like this and it comes out right at the top here. And this is basically us finished with this first go around with our first black cord here. So now that we've finished this first go around with our black cord, it's now time to introduce the second colour. Now what you can do is you can add the second colour into this while it's still on your mandrel here or on your tool. But what I'm going to do is actually take this off. But if you were to add it, what I would do is just tie one end of that second colour again to the screw here, just like we did in the first one, and then follow it around with the other end, put your needle or whatever you're using on the other end, and then follow the path like I'm going to show you. But I'm just going to take this off because it's leather cord and the wire that I'm using has got a bit sharp end, so if I keep going through, and because when you're adding more cord it's going to get tighter and tighter, so there's actually going to be a bit less room to get through. So that's why I prefer taking it off now, to just save from damaging my cord too much really. And you don't need to be worried about taking this off because it's going to hold itself in place because of all the crossings we've done with our cord. So it's going to hold itself in place in the shape now, like this, and then you just slide it off your mandrel. And then you have your work here, which obviously doesn't look quite right yet, quite finished. But that's what we're going to do now. We're going to fill out all the spaces with more cord to it. But what I want to do now, just before we actually start adding the cord, I want to just get my cord through the bracelet here. Because first of all, it's going to help us stabilise it while we're still working with it. But also, while it's as open as possible. So when we put the other cords through, it might get tighter and it'll get trickier to get your cord through. And then this is where I'm going to get my paracord out. So this is just this piece that I'm working with, and it's just a black one because I thought it would be a nice background colour. In case there were any open spaces in your weave anywhere, you would just have a nice black background. But then this is what I'm going to be using, and what I like to do is you probably get this in a long length when you buy it. I just like to leave it on that length and not cut it off till I'm kind of done with the whole bracelet, because there's no point in wasting too much really, and it gives you a little bit extra to hold on to as well. But what you'll find when you cut your paracord, or the ends of them, will be a little bit frayed. So what I'm just going to do is to fix that in place, use a lighter just to seal that end off, and it'll also make it easier to get through your piece that you've already done. And then just roll it a bit, and obviously be careful because this piece is hot now at the end, like that. So now I'm going to just take my piece here, the weaving that we've already done, and then just start putting this through. And it's going to be fairly simple. If it kind of gets stuck a little bit, what you can do is squeeze your weaving together, because that'll open up the space a bit more. But otherwise it should be fairly easy to get through. So something like this. So I'm just going to have this, pull it a little bit through so it's not going to come off the end, but just having it sitting on here while I then keep doing my work. So now we're ready to add the second colour in. So just put it into a position where you're comfortable working with it, like this. And then what you'll find is when you look at it closely, we obviously need to start at the ends because that's where we started in the first place. So we need to start, this is the very first tail that we had, so the shortest one. This is where we need to start, and then we need to follow that path all the way across our bracelet. So you want to then put your needle or your wire, whatever you're using, onto your other piece of cord. So in this case this is my brown one. And this is just loose for now. And then what we need to do is follow the path of this tail, like I said. So that means we need to go in where that comes out from. So if you can see that here, it comes underneath the first loop here. And I'm just going to stick to the right side of it. It doesn't matter if you go to the right or the left. I just stick to the right because that's what comes natural. And then this is going to be the middle colour. So we're going to then put a black one on the other side of this again. But we're going to be doing this one first. So you just want to be going through your bracelet, go underneath the first one, and then just pull your whole length through. So you have a bit of a tail just like the black one, just a short enough one so you don't waste too much cord there. But obviously just enough for you to kind of hold on to so it doesn't slip all the way through. Once you've weaved a little bit further, you won't be able to pull it through as easily, and it'll kind of stay in place. But you just want to follow this path. So like I said, I stay on my right side, so that means I go over the next one and then underneath the next one, like that. And just try and avoid your paracord that's lying in the middle of your piece here, because you can get caught on that a little bit, but just work towards the top, like so. So you're now getting your brown cord lying right next to your black one, and you just want to continue like this all the way, first off down to the other end, but then all the way to the end of the bracelet really. So all the work that you just done with your black cord, or whatever colour you're using, but the first cord, you want to basically just follow that now and repeat this whole section but with this colour cord instead now. Making sure that, the only thing you just want to make sure of that I like to do, check every time I cross through, is that it's lying next to my other cord but on the right side. If you're doing it on the left side, then there, just make sure it's lying on the side you want it to lie, so it doesn't somewhere accidentally cross over. You just keep doing this all the way down, and you can squeeze your weave together or pull it out, whatever helps you as you're going along the way. So I've now kept moving and I've reached all the way to the other end here, so it's coming out of the top. And as you can see, we have a brown cord going all the way around, following the path of the black one that we made first. And then now we need to come back down. So it's just the same thing throughout now. We're just following the path of that black cord, the very original one, and staying on the same side of it the whole way. So that means here I'm going to come back down where that black cord comes down in the same way, and making sure that it stays on the same side of the cord. So in this case it's going as the top one on the top loop here, and you just keep going all the way down the other end again and move all the way up and down until you reach the end where you finished your black cord as well, so where that long tail is coming out. So finish doing that, and then you will have added your brown cord or whatever colour you're using, just your second colour, and then I'll show you how to continue. So I've now continued all the way along, follow the path of all the cord, and then I've reached the end here. So this is the beginning two tails that we have left, so the short ends, the very two beginning ones, and then these two, where they're both coming out of the same place, is the very end after going through the whole piece. And then as you can see, this in itself is quite a nice look, so you could always just keep it to two colours as well, or to two cords rather. And what I would just probably say doing is make your distance, the very first go around when you're creating the braid to begin with the black cord like I showed you, just make the distance between your goes around a little bit smaller, so it's going to end up being a little bit tighter, because you can still see there's a little bit of gaps here, which is going to be filled out on our next go around. But if you just want to use the 2 cords, you can just make it a little bit tighter. But now what we need to do is fill this in with the last piece of cord. So to do that, what we have left, we need to look at our tails here. We have the 2 shortest ones. They're the very beginning, so we're just going to still not touch them. And what we have left is the brown one that I just finished using. You just want to put that to the side. You can cut it down if you want to, or you can just leave it as it is. And then the long one left of the black one, so the very first cord that we used, in this case is if you're just using the same colour to go around again. I'm just going to put my needle or wire onto this long length we have left of the black cord, put my needle on towards the end of that, and then I'm just going to start using this the same way. Now if you're using, say, a third colour or a separate cord, you just want to repeat the same step that you just done, like I showed you with the brown one. So just start out with a new piece of cord and leave a bit of a tail. But in this case I'm just going to reuse the one that's already attached. It's going to give it a bit nicer and neater finish. And you just might as well use as much as you can and have as little wastage as possible. So it's coming out from here, and then I'm just going to go over to where my whole piece is starting out, so the 2 short tails. And remember that I put my brown one to the right side of the original black one, so I want to go on the right side of that brown one because I want my brown one to be in the middle. So I'm just going to do the same thing, go underneath with my wire needle here, and then pull the whole length through of my black cord that's still attached to the piece. And then you'll find that the top loop here is going to just lie from the very end and come over to the other side. So it's a really nice and neat finish. And then otherwise you just continue. So as you can see, you might want to just pull your ends down if they've come up a little bit while doing this. But you just continue like this, following the exact same path that you just done with the brown one, just with this new cord instead, or with the very original one if you're using the same colour. And as you can see, it's gotten tighter now than when we went through with the brown one. So you just take your time, be careful to not damage your cord, and make sure that when you tighten it, or just tighten it so it lies in place, that it's lying on the same side all the way up. So if you're using the 2 colours, you have one in the middle that is on the opposite side of the original cord. Like that. Follow it all the way along, just like you just done with the brown one, until you come down to the end again. And then I'll show you the next step. So I've now kept going with the black cord as well. So the very last one I'm going to do, and I've ended up all the way down at the end here. So I now have all my lengths done and all my tails coming out of this one end. So now what we need to do is just finish off the ends. So what you just want to do is kind of just work with it a little bit, just stretch it out. So just so you make sure that it's nice and even and it's got the right size. And then just want to keep hold of it and then just pull your paracord through it gently, so the end comes further down towards the end of your braid here, like that. And then to finish off this end, I'm just going to take my lighter and then singe down the paracord. Try and avoid your other cord that you've made the weave with, and just singe the paracord here. And then just kind of use your lighter or whatever you're using, and your fingers, careful when it's warm though, just to seal it around. And this way you're basically sealing off the end. Like that. Then that end is ready to get finished off completely. And at the other end here, all I'm going to do is just cut down these lengths of cord that we have left, just so there's a couple of millimeters left, and just glue them gently. Before I glue though, I'm just going to do the same thing with the paracord. Just, you don't want to risk burning the glue really, so just do this end of your paracord first and then cut these off and then glue them gently, and then we just want to finish off the rest of the ends. So I've now finished off both of my ends like that. They're now ready to be finished off completely, and all I'm going to do is use some Kumihimo ends to finish them off. And then you also want to put a clasp in that hole you have on your ends here, and you just use some glue with that. I have a video to show how to do this to finish off. It's Kumihimo braids, but it's the same principle for this one. So I'm going to link that in the description box below so you can go and have a look at that. Otherwise, this is then your finished braid that you can turn into a bracelet. So I really hope that you enjoyed that, and thank you very much for watching. Hello there everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to finish off your Kumihimo braids. And I have these two as examples. So I'm going to show you how to finish off a round one using these type of ends, and then how to finish off a flat one. So if you want to learn how to do that, then stay tuned. Now the first Kumihimo braid that I'm going to show you how to finish off is a round one. And I have one here that I've made, and